Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be interviewing Jamie, also famously known as your chill ISFJ. How you doing, Jamie? What's new?
I'm good. Nothing too big happening.
Okay. You just mentioned earlier that you had just completed a move. Is that correct?
Yes. It's been
Okay.
terrible.
Huh?
It's been terrible.
What was terrible about it?
There's just so many details you have to track. Like, you have to make sure your license plates are correct and you have all your stuff where you
Mhm.
want it and get a storage unit and just, it's a total mess. There's just too much chaos.
Oh dear. Are you not an agent of chaos then?
I don't think so.
No.
Usually not.
hmm No. What is your sense of an ideal day?
Oh, well, I think usually it's just like having breakfast with my husband and then us like going to a movie and getting popcorn and just kind of chilling together. I think that's
Mhm.
ideal.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So, Jamie, what do you work at the moment?
Well, to move, I had to quit. I used to work at a gym.
Okay. And
Mhm.
is working in the gym something you've aspired to do?
No, no, I've had a lot of different positions in my life,
Hmm,
so that was just the last stop on the train, I guess, for now.
I see. And what have you wanted to do in, say, your ideal career?
I feel like I've already done quite a few of the things I wanted. I mean,
Hmm, okay.
I worked in an archive, I worked in a museum,
Hmm,
I wrote, I student taught. I've done a lot of interesting things. I think it's just I can't really think of the next ideal move. I think that's part of what's plaguing me.
hmm. Why are you having difficulty thinking of the next step?
I think I just reached when I set a goal, I reach it, and so it's like, okay, I've set all my goals, I've reached all my goals. Now I'm just kind of living on borrowed time until I figure out what the next thing is, and that usually takes a while.
Okay. So, would you say that you tend to complete the goals that you set for yourself?
100%. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. That's good. And how long does it normally take until you know what the next thing is?
So, well, when I was in middle school, my goal was you need to get a master's degree before you die. So I went through the motions to get that. And
Okay.
then along the way, I think other things just popped up. Mainly within the last 2 years, I've done different things like poetry books and different jobs and just things I wanted to experience, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Okay.
something will tell me I need to do something else, but I can't really explain it.
Okay. No worries. And what did you do for your master's degree?
So history.
History. Okay. And what is it about history that made you want to study it to a postgraduate level?
Well, my undergrad was in Chinese studies and
Hmm.
writing, but I wanted to study China more. So the only opportunity I saw to do that where I was living was to get a history master's. And then as I was going through it, I just kind of fell for like reading primary sources and hearing about different people's lives and what mattered to them in different times and that kind of thing. And being able to like weave this kind of narrative, I guess, that ultimately ends up being a fiction because you're not actually there. You don't actually know what their life is, but being able to make an argument based off of what they say is became really interesting.
Hmm. Does sound interesting. And what attracted you to China?
That's so hard. So it started with Mortal Kombat, which is a video game, but it has a lot of
Hmm.
Asian elements, and then from there, um, I had to, in order to become an English major, I had to take a foreign language. And so I was like, well, I'm going to try a simple language. They have Chinese here. Why not try it? And I ended up really falling for it. I really liked it. It was very hard, but that kind of attracted me too. It was like a challenge.
Hmm. Okay. Hmm. And okay, no, fair enough. So, how do you then move from, desire just to take that challenging language towards becoming someone who's essentially cynophilic?
So, Philip, what do you mean?
Sorry, a love of China.
Um, it just like an obsession occurred. Like it started with characters, and it was. Well, I had this moment. There's just a lot, but 3 weeks into my Chinese semester taking Chinese, I was like, I can't do this. This is so bad. Like this is so hard. So I emailed the teacher and was like, I'm sorry. Like I'm gonna be probably withdrawing. And I went in the next day, and the professor I was sitting at my desk after class, and he just bends down in front of me and is like, everyone is here at some point. Everybody has to learn. Everybody sucks. Like it's okay. Like just keep trying. And
Yeah.
so his encouragement had me like, okay, I need to just try really, really hard. And I just started loving it. And then after that, I just kind of morphed into I don't know, liking the art, and then being curious about well, this character kind of looks like this, and it reminds me of this kind of historical thing, and I want to kind of study that. And so it's things just branched off into a million different things, I guess. I don't know. It was interesting.
Definitely interesting. Okay. And who's your favorite Chinese character?
Which symbol?
No, not the symbols. I mean you said that you learned history through the people and understanding
Oh,
experiences.
I like Wu Zetian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Empress who
Yeah.
liked to chop
Yes.
off the heads of men, and
Yeah.
yes, she was glorious. I loved her. Very powerful.
And what was it about her that made you want to study her?
I like that she was a lot like an amaryllis, if you know what that flower is. It's a flower that grows in situations where it shouldn't, and she did, and she thrived, and I really appreciate people that can do that.
Interesting. And what do you mean by thriving?
I mean, I don't know. She made her mark, I guess. She did what she wanted to do and wasn't sorry about it, and I like that.
Okay. Is that something which you identify with?
I think so. I think it takes some enticing though, because it's well, I don't want to do anything that harms anyone else or gets in the way of anyone else or whatever. So I have to be sure that what I'm doing isn't going to do that before I can kind of move forward and be like, this is okay. This is a good option or something.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. And so you said that from doing history, things started to branch off. Where did they branch off to?
Well, I think it was just studying China in general is what branched off into a million different facets of okay, what is this society like, and what is it actually like to be there? So I went to China to study abroad and stuff. So with history though itself, I think it branches off in just a lot of ways. It says so much about what we're going through now, I guess you could say. And I appreciate that. I don't know, it just cross applies to so much.
Indeed. Okay. And so once you did your master's degree, what came next?
After that, I ended up working at a museum for a little while, just kind of in the background, working with collections. But history is a very hard field to get jobs in. So it was one of those things where I'd have a job for 3 months and then no job for 6 months. And it just is one of the reasons why I got into typology was I need to try to figure out where my skill set is and try to redirect, because this feels like a dead end.
What was it about how you were faring in that made you feel that your skill sets weren't right?
Well, it's just the history field is so specific. So it's yeah, I know how to work in a museum or an archive, but when I try to apply to other things, it's not relevant, or I don't get called in for interviews or something else. So it's I've been so streamlined on one way that it's just very hard for me to break out into something else. And so I've had to have a lot of go back and do early childhood again, work with kids just so you can kind of do something else, and
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. So tell me about working with kids. What was that like?
Oh geez. So there's some kids that I super loved, and some kids that just intentionally caused a bunch of chaos. Like I had this. My favorite story is this little kid who is normally a troublemaker. Anyway, but he pushes over a fish tank and it breaks and shatters across the ground. And I'm standing right there watching him all wet. There's fish like flopping. There's glass everywhere. There's kids, and I'm just like, okay, what do I do? Like I just had that like freeze moment of this is terrible, and then just had to kind of move through it. Like we made it happen so no kid got hurt, but stuff like that would happen, and I'm like, it's a lot of work. Let's say that.
Okay, fair enough. Do these freeze moments often happen?
I think in a crisis, or when like someone gets hurt, like I don't really know what to do. Like physically hurt, like medical stuff. Like I don't even know. I have no idea. So I'm just like, well, I don't want you to die, but I can't help you.
Okay, no worries. Okay. What did you most enjoy about working with children?
My coworkers, I would pull pranks on them all the time, and it'd just be fun. I don't know. It was like a nice atmosphere, and we just kind of all understood like what we went through, So it was like a family in that way.
Okay. What is a family to you?
Oh, geez. I think mutual love and respect and time spent.
Okay. Are you close to your own family?
Yeah, I mean, we're all over the place, and like, I mean, my parents have been divorced for a very long time, so I have like siblings over here, siblings over there, all of that. But I try to stay connected with people.
Okay. What do you do to stay connected?
Most of the times, I send them like funny memes just to know like I'm still out here thinking about you. Or like I'll see something during the day and be like, oh my gosh, like my mom loves this kind of popcorn. I got a text her that I saw this kind of popcorn today, like stuff like that where whenever I think of them, it just feels right to let them know.
I see. Makes sense. What was it about? Why is it that you decided to think about how to apply and learn more skills that could be applied elsewhere rather than just stick with history and become an academic?
So there's a lot of that. Well, so I'm not a good presenter, but I have presented at a couple academic conferences, one being Harvard, one being Columbia. And when I went there, it was just very formal and it felt very uncomfortable. There's a very pretentious vibe, and it feels very opposite to how I feel and want to like relate to people. And so I went into it, and I watched one of the top women in the field of Chinese history basically like berate these two up and coming people. Like when you go to an academic conference, usually there's a professor in the field that kind of judges your work, basically, and then gives you feedback. And usually it's kind of nice feedback, but she tore them apart and said all of this stuff. And I'm just like, I don't want to be doing this, Like, I don't want to be the person that is just here to judge people's thoughts because, like, I just see so much good in what people think, and I like generating it and, like, flowing it about if I think it's good. So I was struck by that. I went and I saw, when I went to Columbia, my professor from undergrad actually let me stay with her. We've been close still. And I just kind of saw her apartment, and, it was very empty and dark, and she just kind of sat on her laptop, and I just thought, is that the life I want to live? Is like just always on my laptop, kind of secluded and mentally alone in whatever like streamlined path, So like a lot of things really played into it. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It does. Okay. And so you said that you worked in a job more recently other than childcare. I can't remember what that was again.
So I worked at a gym most recently.
Gym, that's it. Yes. Okay. And what made you want to go for the gym? Was it just there, or?
It was just something to do, and I thought it wouldn't be too bad. Like I'd been to gyms before and kind of could see what they did, and I thought it'd be all right.
Do you exercise often?
I've been getting back into it. I like to run. Like
Mhm.
it just lets me think. I don't do it necessarily to be hot, but I'll do it to like so I can think. Feel kind of good. I don't know.
What do you like to think about?
Usually there's something I'm pondering that like I'm trying to get to the bottom of. You know.
Mm.
Lately it's been like different typology things or analyzing something someone said and trying to figure out if it makes sense.
Okay. Could you give me an example of that, please?
Hmm. Well, like, okay. Something that's been kind of big actually on typology Twitter is the idea of can you, be one type in socionics and another in MBTI?
Mm.
So, one thing I've been trying to do on purpose is to differentiate those two fields. So, something I've been really focusing on is like the feeling functions, you know? So, like FE and MBTI is one thing, and FE and socionics is another. And so, I've been contemplating that and trying to apply it to different things. Like, I'm really obsessed with Mr. Rogers right now. And so, he's been somewhat on my mind, So, I'll try to like attach these things to him and see if it makes sense. And it's hard though for me to pin it down for sure. Like, I never feel certain.
Mm. What is it about Mr. Rogers which has caused this obsession?
He's just so giving and helpful, and at least his perception, right? Like, we could be entirely wrong and he could be a terrible dude, but like what we have to go with is he actually really cared about people.
Mhm.
And I like that. And I like that he's um I don't know, like someone asked him, this really struck me because it reminded me of myself. He said, you could have like taken your show to a bigger network. You could have made more money. You could have done so much more. You could have toys sold to kids and stuff. But he didn't do any of that. And he was like, no, my intention is not to make money. My intention is to help. And like, I vibe so much with that. Like, I feel like at my core, just like I really want to do what I can.
Mm. How do you like to help others?
Most of the time, it's something concrete, So like, I helped my dad and his girlfriend do the dishes this morning. And, if I see a need somewhere, like, okay, the trash needs taken out, I'll take it out. My husband has to live away right now, and I don't want him to not have food. So I went and I called our bank and was like, hey, he's moving there. I want to make sure his cards are good and they work so he's not cut off at all. Like
Mm.
things like that. So I make sure people are like going to, I don't know, not be halted in what they want to do or something.
Mm. I see. No, fair enough. Hmm. Okay. And do you have any idea where you see yourself in 10 years' time?
Yeah, it's really hard. Um,
Mm.
I have to hope that like my husband's happy and I'm doing something that I love. Um, I would hope that my cat's still with me.
Mm.
Like it's very hard for me to be like, it's gonna be this way. Like I don't trust that, I guess.
Why don't you trust it?
Because I've already experienced so much change, and if I set myself on something, it just if I really set myself on something, it can be like debilitating for it to like get knocked down. Like
Mm.
I had initially thought I was gonna go on and get a PhD, and like all of these things came up that kind of struck that vision down. And so it's
Mhm.
been a lot of like, now we have to figure out where you fit in this world,
Mm.
I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Why is your husband your husband?
He's very persistent. I think it goes back to like when him and I first were just friends, I was with somebody else. Yuck. But my husband, like, I was going to move, and he was like, I just had to tell you I had the biggest crush on you. And I know you're with somebody, but I want to get married and I want to do this with my life. I want to have kids. Da, da, da. He just laid it all out just randomly. And we had never talked about this in our lives. We just kind of enjoyed each other's time a little bit, waiting for our sisters to come out of this elementary school together. And all I could say was like, thank you. But like, it really struck me because he knew what he wanted, and I'm like, I've never heard a teenage boy say he wanted to get married and do all this stuff. And I loved that. I was like, wow. And so later on, when that other relationship ended, I like beamline for him, like, hey, are you are you still available? That kind of thing. And he was. So it all, panned out. So he was very persistent, and he'd he can be very gruff. He called me one time when I was dating this other person and was like, hey, I'm gonna punch this dude in the face. Talk me out of it. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you gonna punch somebody? And it was to protect a friend and stuff, but like I talked him down, and at the end of the call I was just like, why did you call me? And he's like, I don't know. I just did. Like he's just so cute. He's so giving. He's so sweet too. He's like the first guy out there to freaking go and restart someone's car, and he had a friend who was so like he wanted to marry this girl, but he didn't have any money for a ring, and so my husband went and bought him one and like went out and helped him pick it out. But then him and that girl didn't end up working out anyway. He never asked for the ring back or anything. My husband just got like a lot of good in him,
Okay, that's a good answer. Thank you. What caused the relationship before to not work?
Got cheated on. So that was terrible.
And how did you handle that?
Not well. Because at that point, I think, so I had moved to a new place because of like my mom's job. And so that was the stable factor, I thought, was that relationship. And then that happened like a month later. And I got very, very depressed. Very depressed. And then I just fought so hard to get this dude back. Got him back. Got cheated on again. And then I just, learned that lesson of just like, don't go for people that aren't fighting for you. That kind of thing. Like, it's just not worth it.
Why did you want to get him back after cheating you the first time?
It was like the stabilizing factor, I think. It's one of those things where like, well, I expect that we get a text throughout the day, So all of a sudden, this person who I thought like cared for me and stuff was texting somebody else, was not talking to me anymore. I used to really like this dude's family. There's just so many things. And so I just couldn't believe that it wouldn't continue on the way it was, regardless of whether we were a good match or not,
I see.
So, yeah.
In what situations are you at your most confident?
Oh, jeez. I think I write a lot of funny stuff. So maybe that. I like making jokes, and I don't know. I like we have this it's like the white elephant gift, or not white elephant, but a Secret Santa, where you get somebody's name and you have to give them gifts and stuff. And I bought this woman a box of chocolates, which I know she would love, and I quadruple wrapped it in Gorilla Tape, and then wrapped it in wrapping paper and gave it to her. And like she didn't know it was me, right? But like I did stuff like that to her all week. She told me it took her 15 minutes to open up a box of chocolate, and like things like that. I feel pretty confident in just being goofy, I guess. I think that's like a strength.
Being goofy.
Yeah, like it's a weird thing, but like that's something I enjoy about myself.
What do you like about being goofy?
It's unexpected, I guess, or like it just there's joy in it, and I like that feeling of just like, oh, it's so great to be alive, so I can wrap this box of chocolates in Gorilla Tape,
Okay, I see. And in what situations are you at your least confident?
Well, I mean, obviously getting cheated on was pretty terrible.
Yeah.
But in terms of like what I would do daily, if I have to put anything together, nope. I'm terrible at putting stuff together. If there's any kind of like technology issue, I'll just turn it on and off about 50 times, hoping it'll work, and eventually it usually works again. You know, like things like that where I'm like, I don't know how an engine works, you know, those kinds of things.
Okay. And what do you mean by putting things together?
Well, like a shelf or something, you know, like something that takes your hands to be able to do. Like I suck at
Mhm.
art, I suck at just so many things. My product is never good. Like I'll try, I'll do my
Mm.
best, but like no.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Mm. And what do you tend to criticize the most about yourself?
Hmm. I mean, I call myself out for the things I think about people, you know? Like I don't know, like I can be mean internally and I don't like that. And so I have
Okay.
to differentiate like, well, is it better that I could see this thought and end it, or is it bad that I'm having this thought at all, you know?
Could you give me an example of you being mean internally?
Um yeah, like I had a friend who said I it's like a dumb thing, but who said I gave a spoiler to a movie, which I didn't think I did. And she was like, "Yeah, you did." Da 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 da. And I just thought, like,
Mm.
what what makes you think you can know like what my intent was or something? You know, like something along those lines of like, your opinion doesn't actually matter in this. You know, when it does, I think it does, but like that initial thought of like, ooh, I don't like that you're making me feel like a terrible person right now. Um,
Mm.
definitely.
Okay. Mm. And when you catch yourself doing that, what do you tend to do?
I end up having to logic my way out of it, or I try to go like, okay, why is that your reaction? You know,
Mm.
and then I have to kind of detach and sort of like evaluate it and be like, well, you know, that's not really relevant, you know, to the what's at hand, I guess. And so that happened recently with the spoiler thing. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like delete this thing I wrote that potentially was a spoiler. Like maybe she was right, you know. So like I'll if I'm not if I find a way in which I'm incorrect or I'm being bad in a way I didn't realize, I want to make it right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fair. Mm. Okay. No worries. And what do you see as being your idealized sense of self? What sort of thing would you be doing when you think you've done everything you want to do? You've achieved everything you want to achieve. You are the best person you could be.
My idealized. Well, I don't know. I think I want to just be experiencing joy with people. You know, like I want to be able to be the person that you can come to and want to spend time with. I guess.
Mm.
I think that's a big deal, and it gets underrated.
Mm. Okay. What is it about joy in the moment that you value and appreciate?
I don't know. Like it's just the feeling. Like my whole body, it's like little bubbles popping everywhere. You know, and it kind of
Mm.
takes you over, and it's like, yeah, like living's good. Like you can, I don't know, feel this.
Mm. Mm. Interesting. Mm. Okay. Um. Hmm. So, how easy is it for you to come up with new ideas?
Um, so this is what I've been contemplating a lot. If it comes to like making a YouTube video or writing whatever I want to write, it's really easy. But I question whether or not it's a new idea because everything sparks off of something else. So I contemplate whether or not it's actually my idea or someone else's. So that's been hard to decide.
Okay. Okay, let me think. So, do you have kids now?
No.
Not yet. Okay. So, your relationship with your parents, I know they're divorced, but how do you relate to each of them?
So, I'm with my dad right now. And my dad and I are both like, we just get each other's jokes and stuff. Like, we just relate pretty easily, but like, some of his choices are not choices I would have made, you know, and they can be hurtful, sometimes. But when I'm in the moment with him, it's like, yeah, we could talk all day, And then with my mom's different. Like, I don't know how to put it. She's very like strong-willed and very like she's always reaching for something. Like she can't be stable in any one thing. Like she'll have a job for 3 months and have to switch it again, and like she's always trying to like find something new. She can't handle being alone. Like there's a lot of things different about her, but I'm interested in what she's usually doing. But when she talks about me, she says that I'm very calm, I guess. So, and calming.
Yes.
So we have very different energy, let's say.
Why do people find you to be calm?
I really don't know. I think I just don't expect anything out of people other than like, if like I want to share time, you know? So it's like I'm not trying to. I usually don't put pressure on people to do anything, unless it's like I've been trying to convince my dad to buy his girlfriend's son a gift for Christmas, which I think is a good move. Like, but I don't sit there and go, "You need to do this." Like I just suggest, like I think that get him some points. So I'm trying to help.
Okay. What do you tend to worry about?
Everything. Oh my gosh. Basically, everybody. I love dying.
You worry about dying.
Well, everyone I love dying. If I die, I mean, I guess I won't be worrying when I'm dead.
Yeah. What is it about death of other people that causes you to worry?
I mean, it's like access to them, I think I identify with Harry Potter a lot in that way, where it's like, but we didn't get to continue this, We didn't get to, like, I don't know, like grow with each other or whatever.
And what is growth to you? How do you see yourself growing?
Whenever I think about growth, it's always like mental. Like I constantly have people, like something I really like about typology is like there's so many things I've just never considered. And like I was watching the live stream of Kat and Taylor yesterday, which was really great. And I was asking them a bunch of questions, and it's just like, okay, here are people that are willing to teach us things if we ask them. I'm so for that, I'm so for like teach me your stuff. I'm interested, I want to know more things, I guess. It just seems like it can apply to people and be helpful and
Okay. What sorts of things do you tend to take a stand on, be quite stubborn
over? If someone's hurting someone else, or like, especially if they're like innocent or something, Like I don't like when people talk down to each other.
Yeah.
Or like they start arguing and they make it personal, and it's like, don't do that.
What do you mean by personal?
Like instead of saying your argument is invalid because you forgot this premise, people will say you're a dirty sack of worms or something, like you attack them personally rather than, or like, your wife's gonna leave you, like things like that. I really don't appreciate.
Okay.
I don't think that's fair. Just because they made an argument you can't beat, you're gonna go and like attack. I don't like that.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Hmm. What sorts of situations would you find to be most unstable?
Which ones? Huh.
Mm.
Well, like I generally don't like going to bars because anything could happen there.
Mm.
For sure, I don't like that. I don't like just being around a bunch of strangers. Like you don't know them. I guess
Mm.
like there's some discomfort there, and there's also just like I want to generally accommodate people, and I can't if I don't know them.
Mm.
You have to learn that over time.
How do you get to know new people?
I semi interrogate them, but I mean it nicely. Like I'll just ask them a lot of things about themselves, like, oh, like what are you interested in? How do you feel about this? What do you think about that? Like, and then I kind of formulate some kind of picture in my head that comes, and then every time we meet again, it gets added or subtracted, and like they have their little self in my head that I like remember.
Okay. Okay. Sorts of information about them and just take that in.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, fair. How do you decide if you like someone or not?
Um, Honestly, it would take someone being rude to someone else for me not to like them.
Okay.
Because I go into meeting someone and being like, this person could go any sort of way, like, and I want to give them a chance to do that.
Mm.
But if they start, you know, berating someone else, then I'm like, I'm out. I don't want to be near that. That's sad.
No, fair. And how do you handle situations of conflict with other people?
Hmm. Well, I mean, I've been in it before, and it's like, if I have to do it, I'll do it. Usually, I'll do it crying, but but I'll do it. When
Okay.
other people are conflicting, though, like I'm in there, like trying to calm it down.
Mm.
Like uh, I my siblings have done it quite a bit, and I'm just like, stop. You guys love each other. At the end of the day, this isn't worth it to get mad at each other because you stole each other's toothbrush or something. You know,
Yeah.
like that. I just
Mm. Okay. Mm. Mm. Okay. That makes sense. Let me see. Mm. What is the most crazy thing you've done?
I mean, I want to say go to China. That was a big deal.
You actually went to China.
Yeah, and
Mm.
Tibet.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it was. You know, I had a nice group of people that were there with me, and I can't imagine traveling somewhere alone. But because I
Yeah.
had people there that helped like assist me, I guess. Like you just feel more comfortable if you've never been somewhere if you go with someone else. Like that's
Yeah.
me, I guess. So it was nice to kind of explore with other people.
Okay. Mm. So, do you ever tend to go somewhere just on your own, or do you tend to need company?
Um, I mean, I can go to the grocery store and stuff like that. But usually I enjoy it more if other people are there. And then
Well,
sometimes I just get these weird like, you need to go and see this movie right now.
mm,
I'm like, okay, and then I go and do it, and I end up really enjoying it. But it's
mm.
like just kind of random when that happens. I don't know.
Why don't you enjoy it so much without other people?
Um, hmm. I guess I like conversation. I like to be like, oh, did you see that ketchup bottle? It was green. Or you can kind of play off of each other, which is fun, and
Mm.
um, just I just go back to joy. Like I think it's very hard to just be in a box and just
Mm.
live off of yourself. Like I don't see that. I see everybody as interconnected, and so when you can kind of like take someone with you that you really enjoy, like you can do anything together.
Okay. What do you mean by interconnected?
I generally think that most people ultimately affect everyone else. Like Like whether or not I take the trash out ultimately affects my dad. Whether or not I tell my dad good morning affects my dad. Whether or not I greet the mailman affects him, like he might take that hello and have a better day, like everything's kind of flowing, I guess.
Makes sense. Makes sense. What do you feel is your greatest academic or intellectual achievement?
Well, there was this. I've done a lot of things academically for sure, but I was very proud of this. It was a scholarship that was based off of research, like the quality of your research, and the dean of history put me in for it, and I got it. It was very cool. It was like, wow, like you're kind of endorsing like all my work. And that actually paid for my second year of my master's too. So it was like a dual, like, yay, it was very cool.
Okay. Okay. Could you tell me a bit more about your sense of narrative, this historical narrative? How do you make sense of that in your head?
I feel like it's easier to give an example.
Go on, give examples.
Okay. So when one of my big research papers, which is what I presented at Harvard, was on eugenics in China in the 1930s and 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was very interested in this man named Pan Guangdan who brought eugenics to China.
Yeah.
And I was just reading a lot of primary sources, and this is just kind of like my historicizing process, I guess, that I'm trying to speak. So I was reading a lot of primary sources by him, and I had one that really struck me, and it was his motherhood movement, which he wanted China to implement. He thought that through this movement and some other things attached to eugenics, the country would be unified in an era when there wasn't a strong central government. But within this motherhood movement, he basically declared that all women should raise and educate their children. They should no longer be taking any courses apart from child rearing and stuff like that. So it was very intensive. So I was reading about that, was curious to note that like there were a lot of women that liked the idea. And then I got into, well, what did other women think, So I found all these sources leading up to that time he came and was like, we need to implement this, that said, hey, like I want my parents to put my dowry towards my education. Like that's what I want to do, or well, I want to run my own thing. So we have these competing wants and desires, and it's just like, okay, how do I mesh all this together and make sense of it, and ultimately, the country did not choose to take on this eugenics movement, but it just interested me so much to see all of these different people, all of their different wants, and I guess how the history dealt with it. I don't know.
What do you mean by history? How history dealt with it?
Like it ultimately didn't pan out. Like it ultimately didn't happen that this new motherhood movement occurred. So there was enough like anti-movement people to not allow it. And so that, and the arguments I had kind of wove through as I was reading these sources.
Okay. So you mentioned primary sources earlier, and of course, a major part of the historical discipline. What do you like about those primary sources?
I want to believe that they're honest, that it's authentic, and they have this kind of realness to them, So I worked at this archive where we found a letter that was from a woman to a soldier in World War II.
Yeah.
And the woman was saying, hey, I'm running away from my father-in-law's like car dealership or something like that. And I just want to let you know, like, once you get back from war, I'm going to, we can be together. Like, Tim doesn't know, things like that, where it's like, wow, there's a lot of drama going on in history, Like, people see it as dead, and it's like, no, people did a lot of stuff. There's
Mm,
a lot going on. And so that excites me to just be like, no, these people are real. Like they lived, you know?
mm. Okay. How does it feel taking in just all that information from history?
It's kind of like, you know, Professor Xavier from X-Men, where he has all
Yeah.
these thoughts and he has to kind of tune them out. When I let myself get into that, that's why I like running. It's like I have all these kind of thoughts moving around, moving around, moving around. And eventually, by the end of my run, I usually have some kind of thought figured out that kind of morphs everything together and makes sense of everything. It just takes
Mm,
time or something. I don't know.
okay. Huh. So you got a lot of different ideas in your head, just trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, how does all this relevant?
Okay. Hmm. And okay. And when it comes to sort of like the day-to-day stuff, like, I don't know, managing the housework and everything else, is it something which you do well? Is it something which you find difficult?
Um, Neither. I mean, I think it's just like something I do. I got to make sure everything's good because it affects everyone
Mm,
else if I don't.
yeah.
And I'm the person who does the bills, and it's like I can't function if this stuff isn't good. You know, because it matters.
Mm, okay. Mm. Messy. Does your house tend to get?
How messy? So I mean, right now since I've been with my dad, not at all.
Okay.
But my dad's very clean, but my husband's not clean. So like I would have to run around after him and clean up after him every 2 seconds to keep that place clean, and I just couldn't. I didn't have the energy to do that.
Yeah.
So I typically though clean up after myself like really quick. Like I can't handle dishes in the sink or, you know, it just bothers me.
What tends to happen when you find dishes in the sink?
I have to do them, whether they're mine or not. It's like, ugh, this needs to be cleared out. It's
Mm.
wrong.
And is this something which you have an immediate reaction to?
Yeah, well, like every morning before my husband would go to work, I would try to wake up and make him breakfast. And that
Yeah.
didn't always happen. But
Mm.
if he had, you know, if he made something the night before, he would never do his dishes and they'd be in the sink or all over the counter. And I'd just get immediately like hot flashes of like, this is
Mm.
not supposed to be like this in the morning. It's supposed to be clean in the morning so I can make you
Mm.
food. How am I supposed to make you food if it's a
Yeah.
whole mess, you know?
Mm.
So that has to get taken care of first.
Interesting. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. What are your other interests?
I super love comic books. I'm really big on comic books.
Mm.
I love all the like action hero movies. I'll read quite a bit, some romance, some like memoir. You know, I write poetry. Um, been writing some type things. I like playing with my cat.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
Okay. And what's your favorite romance novel and why?
Favorite romance novel? Dang. Well, okay. So the one that resonated the most with me, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I liked Gone with the Wind
Mm.
because of what happens within the last few pages, which is, you know, she kind of, you know, does not get to have her boo, but she says, um, it's okay because I have this land, that this is my home, you know, and
Mm.
that was always beautiful to me because she like, it like honored her family, I think, you know, and what her family had given her and how she could stand on her own 2 feet, you know, and I liked that.
Mm. Interesting.
Of course I want them together, but like I still
Mm.
love the
Yeah.
the the power behind that, I guess.
What is it about honoring one's family that you find so important?
I mean, I don't know, it's like a reflection of where you've come from. I mean,
Mm.
I had I had some family that like died in the Holocaust, for example, and I
Okay.
was yeah, and I was reading through just
To be fair,
huh?
cousins of mine as well.
Yeah. Um well, I was reading through this. It was just a giant book of like um Jewish American literature,
Hmm.
and I found a family member's poetry in it,
Yeah.
and he had like before the Holocaust and after two poems that they had found and cataloged, and you could
Mm.
just see like how plagued he was and stuff. And it's just like even thinking about that, it's like I could so easily not be here right now had they not gotten through, you know. And so in that way, I just feel like I have to live.
Mm. Interesting. Very interesting. Jamie, I think we should move from questioning to just discussion.
Okay.
And I'll tell you where I am right now. So I think the audience is also, they're sort of flirting between two main types. There's a third one also, but it's certainly between EII and SEI.
Of
Now,
course.
to summarize, also IE was also suggested, but I don't think one can really support that typing compared to the other two. But what I think is clear is a strength in introverted ethics, weaker extroverted logic, and also a clear valuing and presence of introverted sensation without extroverted sensation. That's all. That's very clear. But that's what makes SEI and EII the clearest types as being possible for you. Now, here are the issues. Okay, so on the surface, when you give a response to things, you talk about how you want to people just to enjoy that comfort and space with you. You talk about creating joy in multiple cases. You talk about bubbles popping with joy at a particular point. Now, if you just take that at face value, that is very clearly introverted sensation with extroverted ethics. That's that positive emotionality in the moment. However, there's some other elements which are unusual in that you come from a clean academic background, but also how you describe your academic background seems to be one of a certain long-sightedness and, more interestingly, an ability to have different ideas branch off into new ideas and pursue that. The thing about SEI is one would expect to see extrovert intuition be the weakest aspect of them, weakest information element. So we'd imagine someone actually has difficulty exploring, investigating new ideas outside of their area of comfort, their area of observation. For you, it seems to be quite a bit stronger than what we expect from SEI, which is why a lot of people are thinking maybe EII. We see plenty of introverted ethics. At the same time, EII doesn't quite make sense with ignoring extroverted ethics. There seems to be a focus on mood blending with your relationships. People on the one-to-one, but very much about how they're feeling in your relationship. Very much the mood, very much how you're responding to them. I know Carla's was pondering IEE and ESE as possibilities. Now, I see the strength of introverted ethics more than I expect from an ESE. At the same time, for IEE, I see the strength of introverted sensation more than I expect from an IEE. This is where it's a bit tricky.
God, sorry.
Now, don't worry about being sorry, and it's interesting because I remember when I first interacted with you on Twitter, I was thinking, are you an SCI or an EII? And after 50 minutes of questioning, I feel that I still have EII and SEI as the two types which are difficult to tease apart. And I'm trying to figure out exactly how to do that. Now, you have given, it's not, and even with your values, some parts have seemed more alpha-ish in terms of, as I said, the sort of positivity moment. But other times, you talk about how that desire to help others which SEI can do as well, to be fair. I'm not going to rule out SEI from that. But this idea of honouring your family, this idea of this sort of very earnest desire to do a good job in what you're doing. I also will find quite interesting, there's a sense of worrying about future events, but you don't give any of the impression of someone who actually is particularly nervous.
Really? I feel nervous right now.
You give the impression externally of positivity. Actually, and you'll look more comfortable than you necessarily are. And knowing SEIs, those who I know, they do tend to create a sense of things actually being quite comfortable externally, but in turn maybe worrying quite a bit. Whereas it's normally the EIIs, I find that if they are worried about something, it's very clear they're worried about something. They don't really notice the need to project a positive external aspect. So here I'm left wondering, are you an EII who has this positive aspect, this positive focus, this in the moment focus, or are you just a very intelligent SEI?
Well,
And
SEI could be intelligent, right?
they can be
Everyone
intelligent.
can.
They can be intelligent. The question is, if it is an SEI with a great deal of intelligence to the point where extra intuition is showing up, at least in an academic field, I expect to see perhaps a little bit more introverted logic. I haven't seen a clear example of that yet. I guess there's something in terms of fitting together, making sense of the different facts that you're interacting with, trying to put together this sort of narrative. I mean, when you gave me the example of the narrative, it didn't strike a very clear chord. It was more about this particular situation where one or two people were trying to advance a certain idea of eugenics in China and then didn't really catch on. I didn't really feel that was particularly a narrative. I don't know. What are your thoughts so far on all of this?
Well, I think those are the two types that I was struggling.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I want to know what would be helpful.
That's a sort of thing. So I know I asked you in the past about what you felt least confident, and you were talking about struggling to put things together.
Yes.
And in general, very much a weak extroverted logic argument. But what I was wondering, do you see yourself as someone who is very interesting, or do you see yourself as someone who's actually quite boring?
Neither.
Neither. Okay. Could you?
I think the experiences I've had are interesting. I don't know if that makes me interesting.
Okay.
Like, I'm thankful for the things I've been through.
Thankful. Okay. And why are you thankful?
Because it gives me more will to I have more of a knowledge base when I go into interacting with other people. So if someone brings up China, I can talk someone's ear off about China. Things like that where it's oh, okay, cool. I don't really like leaving people hanging, when they want to talk about something and I don't know.
What do you mean by leaving people hanging?
I can tell by their facial expressions, if you're listening or not listening to a person, they'll give you facial signals and body signals and stuff. And I feel bad when I'm I'm sorry, I just don't know. And their disappointment comes and then I feel bad because it's crap. I don't want that to happen. I want you to feel good, I don't want the opposite. I don't know, regardless of whether I'm passionate about a topic, I want to be able to be there for them, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. And what do you mean by be there? What does be there mean?
I just I don't if a person wants something of me, I want to give it to them. So if they want a listener, I want to give them a listener.
Okay. Are you a very active person, Jimmy?
In what way? You mean sports or getting around and doing a bunch of stuff?
Yeah, just doing stuff.
I don't think so. I'm not crazy, no. Most of the time I'm at home, pretty much a homebody, but you know, I will try to like go to the store every now and then just so I do something. Like right now might be the worst time to ask that just because I just moved here and I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Okay. Hmm. And when you move to a new place, how do you settle yourself?
I go to the library.
Hmm.
I have to get a library card that every single place I've moved. It just makes me feel like safe or something. Like I have access
Hmm.
to things that I might need.
Okay. What do you mean by access to things you might need?
Well, whenever I'm feeling like I have to get away from everything, like I'll go to the library and I'll just feel like I have access to different, you know, like sometimes you're in the mood for nonfiction or sometimes you're in the mood for like manga or something. And it's like, I like having access to that where I can just be open and it's free and it's something you can do to kind of explore. It just kind of, you know, and our libraries are kind of similar throughout. You know, you can check out books, you can look at books, so it's very
Hmm.
stabilizing, I guess.
Yes. Yes, it is. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. When you're with your husband, who tends to come up with interesting ideas of things to do, holidays to go on?
Well, the problem is we're interested in very different things. And so I'll be like, hey, most of the time I'm just like, let's go to a movie. That's like my favorite
Yeah.
thing. But I I've tried to find things I thought he would like. Like he likes whiskey, so there was like a whiskey walkthrough or something.
Yeah.
And he was just like, maybe not today, but sometime, you know. I don't know. Neither of us are necessarily the best at it, let's say.
Mm.
Um, we watched Naruto together, and that's what our most recent thing was, but that was at home.
What do you like about anime?
Um, oh my gosh, anime. So I go through love hate spells with it, where it's
Mm.
like, I just, I love how goofy like it can be. I love that they have like the creepiest villains in life. I'm just like, I wouldn't want to catch that on the
Mm.
street, you know? And there's just some interesting ideas I never considered. And usually my husband likes it, like if it's an action anime. And so it's like, ooh, here's a way we can, you know, like watch
Mm.
something together.
I see. Mm. How easy is it for you to learn something completely new?
God. So is it a physical thing or like a new,
Idea.
like, so I've been trying to learn Enneagram stuff and Kat has been so patient with me. It takes me a lot of questioning. Like, if there's anything, like, I am very, very curious. It's just, I need things completely laid out before I can be like, oh, I kind of get what's going on. I'll just
Mm.
have all these questions, like, I'll hit these stopping points or something in my understanding, and I'll be like, am I thinking this correctly? You
Okay.
know?
Hmm. And could you give an example of a sort of stopping point?
Well, like, with Enneagram specifically, I was asking, like, just for another person, it was asking her about fours. You know what fours are like and stuff because online there's the idea is that they just want to be special and Kat has a very different, you know, and correct understanding what a four is.
Mm.
But I was pondering that like, does that actually apply to me or does it not? Me wanting to be unique and special and stuff like that. And so I'll go to other people and be like, this is my thought on it. Is this correct? I don't know. Like I have a hard time with that sometimes where I'm like,
Mm.
if I'm not familiar, I I need a lot of slicing down to make some sense of something or concrete examples or something.
Mm. Okay. So you ask for examples from your friends. No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Hmm. How do you like to learn in general? You said you go to primary sources, but how do you like to learn? How do you like to?
Like what medium?
Yeah.
I love YouTube, you know. I love I'll just read random books, I'll listen to podcasts, I'll talk to anybody about anything. Um generally doesn't matter who it is. I just I don't know. If something's interesting, it's interesting.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter how it comes to me.
How do people tend to describe you?
Gosh. I asked my mom this question about just all of
Hmm.
our kids. Like, how would you describe our kids? And she said,
Hmm.
I was like a delicate flower that was very calming and attracted people. And I'm like, am I? I don't feel like that, but so there's her opinion. My dad thinks I think it's just like I'm curious or I'm very shy, but then I'll ask him a lot about people after they leave. He said I've always been that way. I think that's true.
Hmm. What is it about? What is it about your shyness? What makes you shy? I know that you said that you don't like being in an environment surrounded by strangers, but what is it about that makes you shy?
I don't know. I guess I don't really know. Um, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes. I don't know what they're interested in. Um, you could say the wrong thing, even thinking you're being nice, and I don't know.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So, sort of, you want to make sure you know them enough so you can avoid a bad situation.
Yeah, I think that's positive.
Okay. No, makes sense. Makes sense. Hmm. Who do you? How do you know whether you can trust a person or not?
Consistency, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When I don't know, when a person comes to me too and gives me a lot of details about their life that I think are, you know, somewhat private or something, that makes me build more trust in them. It's like a sharing of information. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, I mean, I think that fully applies. I don't know. Even at work or something, you're annoyed at the boss and you tell someone, and if they run and tell someone, obviously they're not trustworthy. But I
Mm-hmm.
usually see how they react with other people before I give information too.
Okay. Could you tell me what the most interesting thing you've thought about lately is?
Okay. I've been contemplating a lot about Elon Musk's idea that we're living in a simulation.
Mm,
Um, be-
yes.
because I went and I had my wisdom tooth pulled out and they put me on laughing gas.
Yep.
And I kind of blacked out in the middle of it and I heard this just whirring sound over and over. And it sounded like a video game had screwed up, you know? And I was trying to scream and move and I couldn't. And it was the scariest thing I've ever experienced. And then I came out of it. Um, so I've just been kind of looking for signs for that, I guess. I don't know. And it scares me though, because it scares me the idea of not being real.
Mm, interesting. Okay. Hmm. What does it feel like to be uncomfortable?
My body reacts. It's like spider sense, but like in my gut.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, I can't even. Like I just physically feel it. Um, no matter what it is I'm thinking, like the discomforts in my body.
Mm. Okay. Hmm. One thing I will say, your way of answering is not especially matter of fact.
What does that mean?
It's like you're conveying sort of how you're feeling about it. You're conveying sort of the mood, sort of the impression it gives. Is impressionistic language, rather than relaying the facts of the case, which I find is more something you find with someone who's extroverted logic vulnerable than with someone who is extroverted logic suggestive. Um, see what other people are asking as well. Let's just see, because we've got the public here. See what people are saying. I mean, I'm leaning more SEI at this point. I think I think you're most likely in a high IQ SEI.
Why do you think that's unusual? I'm curious about that. Like, I mean, you
Well,
said me, but
because it's the question of how much of a high IQ. For someone to be showing suggestive function stuff when you're in your You're in your 20s, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm 25.
Yeah. To be showing a lot of suggestive stuff when you're 25 is not something I'm used to encountering. And at least I'm still trying to figure out how it even works, because we know that type is an intrapersonal thing. It's not an interpersonal thing. And what I mean by that is your strengths and weaknesses in different areas. There's not necessarily going to be the case that you are going to have that every single SEI is going to be weaker at, say, extroverted ethics than every single LII. It depends on where they are in their own development. All you can expect to see is that their introvert sensation is going to be clearly stronger than their extrovert intuition, relatively. So the question is, how developed does a particular SEI have to be for their extrovert intuition to also be showing up next to their other three?
Well,
So
you said you weren't seeing TI.
that's another thing. I'm not sure. I can see some TI instead of trying to put together a narrative. You haven't convinced me yet of its strength yet compared to other things. What I do see with extrovert intuition is a general curiosity and openness, and this idea of seeing things branching off to new ideas and where it takes you. I'm not sure that's something you're leading in or not, if you're actually the one actually creating the possibilities in your environment. If you're the one actually seeing something, then jumping after it. I'm not certain.
I was talking to Megan Lavoda about this actually, in terms of like, how do I know when I need to, or like when I should do a different job or something? And I told her it's almost like like a magician comes up or whatever and tells you the way or shows you the way. Like I literally have people tell me it's like the same thing like 3 times, and then I'm like, okay, I guess that means I need to go and apply to this job because it just keeps coming up. Like it's not. I don't know if that idea is mine. Then I think it's things like that happen a lot.
That seems externalized. I remember you said earlier in the interview, you'd done your thing at the gym, and now here you are. You moved. You felt like you were waiting for the next thing to come knocking. Next possibility to come knocking. And that is interesting. Maybe we should return to that idea and explore it more, because it doesn't seem to me like it's like you lack the ability to turn your ideas into actions. You complete the things which you start. You're a completer. That's one thing which an EII isn't necessarily going to be a completer. EIIs often have this analysis paralysis. I spend all the time thinking about different possibilities and not moving into action. I'm not getting any of that from you. Instead, I'm getting someone who seems to be very open and curious. But when you see something new and you think, actually, I want to do that, you go and you do what you need to do to get it done. And then you're like, oh, what's next?
Yeah.
Or maybe there's that return to inertia. What happens? When was the last time you were in this period when you've done everything you want to do, and now you're thinking about what to do next?
I think it was after I wrote my first poetry book, because I'd always wanted to do that, and then I thought I'm gonna just write another one. So I did, and then after that it was okay. Now what? Because I don't know what direction to go. I mean, I had some suggestions of what to do, but I was kind of insecure about doing them. Like, my mom for the last several years has been like, you need to just start your own editing business, because I do some freelance editing. And I'm like, but it's not stable. It's not like a stable income, and I don't know if people would actually approach me, to actually edit their stuff. I mean, like, I had a professor that I had approached me, and I edited a couple of chapters from her book, which I think should make me feel good, but I still am just like, well, maybe she was just trying to be nice,
Interesting.
Yeah.
That suggests that you are waiting for other people to provide there's possibilities for you to travel, and also you need to feel that it's also stable. And stability has come up a few times. You even tried to get your ex-boyfriend back for the sake of stability, which is interesting to me. People are saying, oh, there's so much R here. There is a lot of introverted ethics, but it doesn't seem to be, necessarily for its own sake. If after breaking up with someone because they cheated on you and broke that relationship, you're then trying to get them back to sort of cover a paper over the cracks because it feels more stable and you felt you needed something familiar to stick to. So I think I am more strongly towards SEI now, and I think high IQ SEI probably explains why it was more confusing earlier on about your level of intuition. I think it explains it. We see other examples of people who are high IQ but sensory and so appear like they could be intuitive, like Julius Caesar as an SCE example. People can type in an ENTJ, but look at what came first there, what was the main priorities and motivations. It was sensory and ethical in terms of, well, power seeking and personal relationships. And yeah, I think that's what makes sense. I think you've very much developed that extrovert intuition. And introverted logic, there is this desire to make sense of things. And you seem to be proactively trying to create it. I'm not sure how well you've done it. To be fair, I haven't, even when people talk about their strengths, I won't be able to see how well they're actually doing it in an interview. All I can do is take you at your word when you're talking to me. So overall, I think SEI makes the most sense. I'd be interested to see what other people are thinking. Kat's asking, why couldn't you have really developed P, extroverted logic? Well, it's far less likely for someone to develop their vulnerable function. So if you say a really developed EII, it would be unusual, I think, for you to suddenly find yourself in a situation where you just can't put things together. You don't know how to make these things work. You just sort of do technology, start turning things on and off again, on and off again. I'd expect a more well-developed EII to actually have learnt all the techniques for fixing these problems in their lives. Actually gone to people, found out how do I make this thing work, and then keep maybe records of how to do it, and just have that factual information at hand. I haven't seen that same effort at growth in extroverted logic terms, which I've seen in terms of your extroverted intuition. So that's one reason why I wouldn't say a highly developed EII made sense. And to be fair, I don't really have a good rationale in my head. I have a better rationale in my head for why you could be an SEI who appears like an intuitive type than I do for an EII who is giving lots of introvert sensation plus extroverted ethics ego sort of sounding answers. I'm not sure what the rationale would be for that to work, which is another reason why I think SEI makes more sense. So yeah, I think SEI. Do you have any questions for me, Jami?
Well, I think this was something I wanted to actually comment on in terms of EII would be SE polar.
Yes.
That was the thing that I didn't identify with because I feel like I can use it or I can force things, but I don't like to do it. Like I'm not incapable, let's say. And I'm wondering if that's possible for EII though too.
That came out a bit in your answers when you're talking about calming other people down and actually getting involved with the confrontation for the sake of reducing it.
Yeah.
And you don't radiate that sense of vulnerability I can often have with EIIs. There seems to be a certain toughness there, but you're minimizing it as much as possible for the sake of being more gentle, being more helpful, creating nice surroundings, avoiding awkward situations. But yeah, your answers seem to me to be more ignoring extrovert sensation than vulnerable. I agree. Yeah, no, I think that's fine. Now I know that my fiance is knocking on the door because we've gone a bit over time. I thought it was worth it because I really wanted to get down to the bottom of this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. I think it was a very useful interview for me and for everyone else watching. And thank you everyone else for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Take care now. Bye-bye.